What's going on, guys? It's Adam P, and welcome back to Newcastle United News. Transfer window is over now, done with, we can move on. But what happens to Newcastle United next? What happens on a short-term basis and what happens on a long-term basis of our football club? New badge, new St James's Park, new training ground, new sponsors, new CEO, new director of football. There are so many questions, and you guys, of course, as football fans, we all want to know and we all want to hear when these things will happen, how these things will happen, and how our football club will be able to succeed with the likes of FFP, PSR. How does the club get around all of that? And here in this video, a bit of an introduction video, we're going to show you and explain when certain things are expected to happen. And of course, as time progresses, we'll have a more detailed video going into each individual thing. And of course, we'll be able to mention a lot more once we know the information that comes out. Of course, if you guys are new around here, make sure you get down there, hit the subscribe button. It may be the international break now, but trust me, we still have a lot of videos planned on this channel, so make sure you stick around. Don't miss out on any incoming Newcastle United news, and don't miss out on what we have in store. Starting off with the obvious thing, new St James's Park. When can we expect the announcement of a brand new stadium that's going to move onto Leazes Park? This is already a confirmation. We know it's going to be in Leazes Park. We know it's not a stadium expansion, but instead a brand new stadium. But when should we expect something like that to happen now? It was originally reported and planned out that there was meant to be an announcement video between the end of May to the start of June, if I remember correctly in the time frame. But just before the transfer window went properly into fruition, Newcastle had originally had this St James's Park plans all sorted out, but got delayed. In my opinion, when I look at the entire situation, I remember at the time, I wouldn't say there was a negative response from Newcastle fans, but there certainly was negativity towards this stadium capacity. I remember a lot of fans looking at it. It was reported to be 65,000 regular seats, and then with the hospitality seats in there, probably around the 67, 68,000 mark. And supporters said, well, listen, new stadium with 67,000 fans. What's the point of that? We need it higher, and we need to make sure it's between 70 to 80,000, get more fans in there. Now, Newcastle has a hard rope they need to cross, because you need it to be high enough where it's going to sell out every single week. In Newcastle, as much as we don't want to say it, Newcastle have expensive tickets that people are going to buy no matter what, and they're always going to have bums on seats every single match. But it also needs to be low enough where there is still a ticket demand. If you get to a stage where, let's say, it's a 90,000 seat stadium, and all of a sudden we don't have that ticket demand anymore, people are stopped going to games, you've got thousands of empty seats every match. It also damages Newcastle long term, because the ticket prices, they can't increase the ticket prices, and they can't get the overseas fans to come around and buy these very expensive hospitality packages, because you can just buy a regular seat. Why is someone from America going to come over and spend £2,000-3,000 on a hospitality package when he can just simply buy a regular seat? People aren't going to do that. Newcastle needs, in their point of view, to have that tightrope where the stadium is low enough where people will still buy tickets and still buy hospitality packages, but also high enough where the club maximises its profit. The club gets as many people in the stadium as possible. And also, for you watching, you can all go to the game. The club doesn't want all of you miss out as well. So it's a balance in a business point of view where the club has to play it right. And I feel like with how negative and how much noise there was surrounding the stadium capacity, it still might honestly be a case where Newcastle took a step back, reflected, and made sure before we announce anything, just to go through everything and to see what is feasible and what is possible. But on a short-term basis, I reckon this is the first major announcement. Don't know when, could even be as soon as this international break, but some point towards the end of the year, you're going to find out about new St James's Park. I reckon this is a short-term plan. I think we will know the information about a brand new St James's Park before the end of 2025. It was originally scheduled before the transfer window, wasn't announced then. Realistically speaking, you have to say it's going to get announced before the end of this year. And I believe it's on the flip side for the training ground. I reckon the training ground is still far, far away from having that official announcement. And that, I wouldn't say it's concerning, but for training ground as well, it's going to take years to build on. However, we've got the benefit of Jamie Rubin, of course, owning part of Newcastle United, who, of course, owns the racecourse up in Gosford, owns a lot of land and owns a lot of buildings as well. So for Jamie Rubin, he's got the luxury of already owning stuff that Newcastle could use. And you have to logically say, especially Gosford, you're talking near the airport, out of the way more private for Eddie Howe and the players, where they can just build up proper facilities. And I feel like Newcastle's training ground, although it has improved a lot over the last few years, still isn't good enough for where the club is now. And you talk about Liverpool, for example, you just look at the state of their training facilities, are just next level compared to ours. Newcastle's facilities are good, but for what kind of club we are now, we are starting to creak in and trying to become an elite level club. If Newcastle wants to be an elite level club, you need elite level facilities. And although our facilities are good, they're just not elite level. You see people outside the training ground taking the mick and calling our training ground a Milan Carters. I mean, it does look like a Milan Carters on the outside. Truthfully, Newcastle needs better facilities, and we will do that. However, still sounds like the long-term plan. That one doesn't seem to be anywhere near getting confirmed yet. I still reckon potentially a year, maybe even longer, but I feel like towards the end of the season / summertime, that's when you should be hearing a lot of information and hearing potential announcements about a brand new training ground. And alongside a new training ground and a new stadium, that's where brand new sponsors come in. Still need a training kit sponsor. I feel like I'm wearing the manager's training kit now, and there's still not a sponsor on here. It feels like Newcastle just not maximising its profit on sponsors. And I am glad to say at least that, for example, St James's Park, it hasn't been called any sponsor yet. That could potentially change. Maybe Saudia St James's Park, for example. As long as the name stays the same and something in front of it, I don't necessarily mind that. However, quite a controversial change which will happen for next season. New badge. It will be a modernised version of the classic badge, but as the designs have been so far on social media, heavily diverse. If I'm not a fan of the designs I've seen so far, and especially not that sketch print I've seen in social media. It looks like a massive downgrade, I have to say, on the badge currently. And the reason why Newcastle want a new badge is because the old badge is quite hard to show on computers. It's just an outdated badge in terms of the technical side of it, where you have to make the kits, and also in a physical and monetizing side of it, because when you have new sponsors and when you're trying to promote Newcastle United, badges only able to be shown off well. And although some people may be upset and disappointed by it, I have to say, Newcastle's point of view, we do have the oldest badge in the Premier League, and I feel like, in a technical point of view, especially when you look at the seahorses up front, when you look at the flag, and when you look at the lines, we just have an outdated badge. It does need to be modernised. However, how you modernise that and how you are able to present a new badge is huge and key to the heritage and history at Newcastle, and you could really upset a lot of people if it's not done properly. So again, we know that information that is going to happen ahead of our new kits next season. As for the new CEO, it is expected it will be David Hawkinson, who used to be the executive at Real Madrid. And when you talk through his legacy, throughout my 25-plus year career, I've had the privilege of stewarding some of the world's most iconic sports and entertainment brands through periods of significant growth and evolution. At Madison Square Garden Sports, I directed comprehensive business strategy across legendary venues, including the Square Garden, Radio City Music Hall, and the Revolutionary Sphere in Las Vegas. Previously at Real Madrid, I led global partnerships for the world's most valuable football club, engaging with a 1 billion plus global fan base. I spearheaded transformative initiatives, including the landmark Scotiabank Arena naming rights agreement, while overseeing multiple professional sports franchises. In terms of a CEO, he is number one. He is the best he possibly could have got realistically at Newcastle United now. Darren News, as we know, of course, has cancer, so he has to unfortunately step away from this football club. As a club, we have to move on. We have to be able to continue to progress and continue to push our brand out there. And as for someone in terms of legacy and what he's been able to achieve outside of football and inside of football, what an appointment that is. Serious appointment. Someone that clearly has experience, someone that is clearly good enough to be here, someone that is clearly going to kick on and do well. And you would have to say, massive positive, massive force, and it's going to be something that we're going to see this season and for future years to come, just how important the CEO is going to be at Newcastle United in terms of making our brand even bigger. Club is currently still seeking out a new director of football, and this is the big one, because you went from Dan Ashworth, who, to be honest, I think Dan Ashworth actually was good at his job at Newcastle, but of course a massive snake using club email, contacting our football clubs, trying to get his way out of the football club before going to Manchester United and then get the sack from him a few months later. Paul Mitchell, we know, was an absolute sham, was behind the scene, was heavily hands-on with the unfortunate decline of losing our most sellable asset, and while we made a record transfer fee on that individual, behind the scenes, Paul Mitchell, despite being here for only one season, was not great at his job, to be fair. Butted heads with Eddie Howe and deep down was more trouble than he was able to succeed at his job, and Newcastle nice and quickly moved him on, and now it's a case that we are still looking for that director of football, and people may be negative towards how slow it's been, but you have to be honest, we need to find the right individual. We clearly have missed out, and we clearly have appointed the wrong individuals of our football club now. Third time's the charm. Third time's lucky. We have to get it spot on this time. If we get the wrong appointment again, it's not going to look good for us. We need to make sure we find the right individual to go in there to not upset Eddie Howe, to not upset the ownership, and to not upset the players. We have to find the right balance and get someone in that will progressively take all our teams, your youth team, your women's team, and your men's team, all forward. We've had two people so far. One's a snake and one was crap. So you have to find the right person now to be able to do that. And currently, information's still a bit scarce on who that could be. But again, I would expect the director of football and the CEO, especially going into the January transfer window. I feel like, again, short-term options, we know over the next couple months they'll be appointed at some stage. But that's about it in terms of this video. Just giving you a time frame, giving you a rough estimate, and just giving you bits of information for now on what you should expect to happen next, when you should expect it to happen, and just to give you an introduction into what you should expect this season behind the scenes at Newcastle United. And for us walking away from this video as fans, hopefully you took some new information there. Expect exciting times. Newcastle's looking good. Newcastle's looking strong, and they're being able just to clear out that massive headache over the summer. And now we can breathe, we can look forward, we can be positive, we can be ambitious in this football club. Back on track, performances on the pitch, and of course Eddie Howe and his players on a short-term to a long-term basis. We should expect results as well. We should expect things to go well this season. But even the team, back the team, keep supporting us, and I promise you things will go well. Appreciate you watching anyway. Let me know your opinions down below. Do you agree with the points I made in this video? What would you personally do if you were at Newcastle United? Please do let me know. Take care, thank you for watching, and we will see you all in the next one.